Henry Rollins, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thanks.
In the evening with Henry Rollins, explain to me what people can expect on Saturday, October 18th.
Well, sadly, it's just me with a microphone, and that's about it. But I will bring a lot of stories with me, and that's basically the evening, me and just the sound of my voice.
Now, in 2011, I read that you say you swore off music for good. Were you serious about this?
Well, as far as making it, yeah. As far as listening, I imbibe frequently. There came a time years ago when I stopped writing lyrics. I just kind of ran out. And I didn't want to go up on stage and merely do old stuff because I thought that was kind of artistically lazy and not very risky to be just a human jukebox. And so I stopped, which was extremely tough. But I thought it was kind of the right and brave thing to do. And I still hold to that. I mean, I'm 53. I wouldn't want to be out on stage kind of wheezing through the hits as my heart slams into my lower jaw. And so I just decided to leave it and go do other stuff.
Do you think that at any time, maybe when you're 53 now, do you think at 60, you might say, you know what, I've had 10 years, haven't been making any music, but I really enjoyed it way back when, and now I do have some new stories to tell through music, some new lyrics.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would leave the door open. It's just that I haven't had a lyrical thought in many years. I'm not a musician. I can't play any instruments. For me, it was always, I had this thing to say with a beat. And I did music like a lot of musician types. I did it really hard, like kind of without doing much else for about a quarter of a century. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I really have no questions as to how this is done or how that's done. And I'm in airports frequently, and I run into bands. You'll see some line of bearded men with a laminate around their neck, and I look at them, and I go, yeah, I remember that, and I just don't miss it.
Yeah, and you've been doing the spoken word stuff for, geez, I don't know. I mean, what is it, like probably 20 years now or something?
Oh, since 1983.
Oh, wow. Even further back than I even realized. And when this Henry Rollins, like I said, will be here on Saturday, October 18th, when you tell these stories, when you get up there and you're doing a spoken word thing, you have plenty of stories to tell. Is it all, do you have it all in your head? Do you have notes in front of you? Do you know exactly what you're going to talk about for that hour or however long you're doing it? Or do you get there?
It's a couple of hours, and I usually prepare and over-prepare. And no notes on stage, nothing, just me. I don't like to not be prepared because what I don't want to do is waste the audience's time. I don't want to ramble, and I don't want to pull it out of some area of my body and deliver. So I plot and plan, not to where I'm pulling a string out of my chest and just barking the words, but I think a good roadmap makes for a good, energetic, cohesive evening.
Do you tell stories all about your life? I know you were born in Washington, D.C., parents divorced at a very early age. But your mother raised you more so than your father, right?
Yeah, I did 5 days a week with Mom and 2 days a week with Dad. The typical divorce agreement.
Yeah.
That lasted until I started working all the time. I really enjoyed work. And so in my early teens, I was just doing 2 or 3 minimum wage jobs during the weekend, evening here, a day there. And so the visits to my dad cut down dramatically because I was chasing the dollar on the weekend.
Do you think that bothered him? Do you think he missed seeing you?
I doubt it.
Really? You don't think so?
Well, we're in the same small town. It's not like I'm overseas. And I think he very much had his own life, as did I. So it's kind of, at a certain point, it was probably just a mutual leaving alone of the other.
I always think of Henry Rollins and Black Flag and, of course, Rollins Band, things like that. And hard music, and you think of I don't know if aggressive is the right term. Sure, I guess an aggressive sort of male figure when you think of Henry Rollins, which is interesting because like you said, you were raised primarily by your mother. I had a single mother. And I didn't have a father figure at all. And I wonder if I would have turned out differently if I had that father figure around, because there was really no one. Men and women think a lot differently on parenting, and you're not as macho, I guess, if you don't have that father around. Like I didn't have a father around, and I'm kind of a pussy, basically.
Well, I think that's an interesting discussion that sociologists, behaviorists, and scientists have been having. Nurture and nature, which I think is a really fascinating topic. I think sometimes I'm kind of old and stodgy in that I think it's great for a young person to have the balance, to have mom and dad at home and have it not be terrifying, not hearing yelling, not why isn't dad here? Oh, he's off drinking. That's traumatic to a young person. And so I had that's classic America, where the family is like, a piece of work, and the kids endure wherever the parents are going in their lives. I think peace in the valley is a good way for a kid to be raised, without trepidation, without fear. But this is not always how it goes. So I think young people find a way to navigate what they're born into. And I think it's funny that you say that you're a pussy. I doubt it. Is just that I think young people they're forced to cope with whatever the hand is that they are dealt. And I was a very nervous young person. I got people get in my face, and I would just fairly tremble. And then at a certain point, I don't know, something clicked. I just got sick of taking it. It was like the pendulum swung the other way.
Mm-hmm.
My father was always someone who yelled. He would use racial epithets, and he kind of would broad brush topics. Like, well, these people are always like this because they're black. You're like, well, wait a minute. I know that's not true. And so he was a complex guy with a fairly simplistic way of looking at certain things. So I had to dial him out now and then. Like, just listen to him going, no, I can't take that one to the bank. He's my dad, and that's not going to work for me. And it's weird having to dismiss a parent knowing that what they're saying is, in my mind, inherently wrong. And so a father figure, it would have been cool for me. I just never felt he was that. So I had to get my, more from teachers and my friends' fathers, which is a weird way to grow up.
Now, what I also find interesting is many people who are raised primarily by a woman, they really get along with women, have a respect for women, and can associate almost with women more than they can with men if they didn't have a strong father figure in their life as much. But as far as I know, and I could be wrong about this, you never got married yourself and don't have any kids. I could be completely wrong about that, but to the best
never married, no interest, and all through the 90s, I watched amused as the Henry is gay rumors swirled about me, which is just not the case. I kind of fell in love very early on with my passport and my wild ambition. And I keep a very busy schedule that takes up to, 20 countries a year. And the idea of settling down and breeding and all of that, it never really came into my life. To this day, I'm raring to go and get back to the airport and go somewhere else.
Have you been in love with a woman before? I'm assuming you have.
Yeah, when I was younger. And, where, your heart gets broken and, that's the second half of the album you want to write really writes itself. Ask John Lee Hooker. That's where he got a lot of his source from, was when the woman left him on the Thursday. That's the new John Lee Hooker record. And I actually asked him about that once. I said, a lot of women have left you, if we are to believe your records. I forget what he said. But, I've been touring and kind of working like a maniac since my late teens, and I'm in my early 50s now, and I've been kind of relentlessly going like that and kind of expanding the work as the years go on. Instead of mellowing out, I seem to be kind of asking for more.
Picking up more steam. Do you have a girlfriend currently, or are you completely single?
Oh, no, I do, and it's a gal, a woman. I've been we've been going out with each other. We've been bothering each other now for over 20 years,
Oh, wow.
on and off. And we're both busy and kind of maniacs, and we know each other very well and see each other with incredible infrequency, but it works fine. I mean, at this point, she knows exactly what she's getting into when dealing with me. I'm just not around as far as, hey, I'll pick you up at 7. I'm just not going to be that guy for probably a long time.
Now, let me ask you a personal question, Henry, because you say that you see this girl infrequently, and you're in your early 50s now. I just turned 39 over the weekend. Does the older you get, does your sex drive diminish? I would think you don't do drugs, alcohol, that kind of stuff, so there's no vice there. Many people you seem to fill it with work. You fill your time with work. But the older you get, does the sex drive diminish? Does it not become as important? Because people have been saying that to me. They go, "Oh man, the older you get, Rover, you're almost 40 now. It's all downhill." But I don't think I've noticed that dipping off yet.
For myself, I don't think I would lose as much sleep or howl at the moon when the gal leaves me, like when I was like 23. That was like a game ender. Like, the woman you were really into, she's not so interested in you anymore.
Yeah.
Which would lead to those embarrassing, tearful phone messages which you would leave on analog tape, on a cassette, which are probably on eBay now, or at least in someone's hard drive. That wouldn't happen to me now, and I don't know whether that's the diminishing of real sex drive or just a smarter, battle-hardened man who runs to the refuge of a Tom Waits record rather than a Sabbath record when the girl leaves.
Let me ask you about a couple of things before I let you go. I know Henry Rollins is busy, and an evening with Henry Rollins is Saturday, October 18th, 9:30 p.m. It's at the Cleveland Masonic Auditorium. His website is henryrollins.com. I didn't know this. I mentioned right before you came on, I'm reading a lot of stuff about Henry that I didn't even know. You did, and I don't even know the details on this exactly. You did either an album with or an album for Charles Manson, the famous killer.
Well, he sent, or his lawyer sent 2 tapes to a lot of different, same tape, a 60 and a 90, I believe, to a bunch of different independent record labels in the 80s. And a whole bunch of labels ended up with these 2 kind of dashed off tapes, and SST Records, Black Flag's label, was one of them. And SST did some kind of tentative deal with Manson's lawyer, and there's no one at the company to edit the tape. And so it fell upon me. And so for several weeks I played the cassettes and made notes and made like some fades and fade-ins and fade-outs and kind of cobbled together an LP, which was eventually went from cassette to quarter-inch tape, from quarter-inch tape to mastering at a place now closed called K-Disc. And I think 5 or 6 test pressings were made, and then the deal, for one reason or another, fell through. And that's kind of it. And
so this was music that Manson himself had recorded there in prison?
Yeah, vocal, acoustic, surprisingly high quality. I mean, I guess he just knew exactly where to put the boombox or whatever the recording device was. Mm-hmm. Very simple, and believe it or not, really skillful. Like, it did not suck at all. Like, you put it on, you're like, okay, this is not bad. And it would have made for a very interesting release for SST that probably would have come with more drama than I think the reason that didn't go through is the label didn't want to deal with the inherent drama that would have ensued.
Yeah, people would go, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're partnering up," or indirectly or indirectly.
It would have been, I think, really hard on the label and the people, us, who were living amongst, next to the phones on the floor. That was SST. We lived there. And so I think in those days it would have brought an unbelievable amount of scrutiny on the label and on Black Flag as a touring entity. And we had enough of that from local law enforcement and church groups as it was.
Did those 5 pressings, I read that you still own those. Is that true?
Yeah.
So you have those. Those are someplace. They're in a box. What do you plan on doing with those eventually? Just hang on to them? Do you?
Well, yeah, they're not in any way mine to exploit in any way, so I respectfully just archive them, and they're stored with a lot of rare stuff I have off-site from my place. But, yeah, they've been in my possessions for about 30 years.
What interests you the most in life as you're getting older now? Henry Rollins is in his 50s. I know you've always been interested in politics and things like that. What is it now that really piques your interest about the world today?
What I can learn and what I can understand and what I can do. That's what holds my interest. I'm not interested in how good I look or the cut of my clothing. I'm interested in what you can teach me, what I can learn from you, what I can teach myself, where I can go, and what I can do to be, helpful more than anything.
Are you a religious guy at all?
No.
Not into religion.
But not against it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, it's an interesting topic. I wouldn't ever consider myself an atheist because that just takes a lot of calories to say, I don't believe this. I really think that people can entertain that humans are very dynamic and that you can be religious and not necessarily have a problem with the theory of evolution. It doesn't have to be either or. I think that people can entertain both. I think you can be a person of faith and think that Darwin is just fine. So I'm not the one who's telling the church guy to shut up. I just wish that some of the bigger mouths of all of that would leave out the homophobia and all of that, because I don't think that's positive.
I was laying in bed, and I've talked about this on the air. I don't know why it just struck me a couple nights ago. I think it was the night before last. One of those things where you get in bed and it's
laying in bed alone on your birthday.
That's exactly.
Tears drawing on your face.
No, but I
still present in your mouth.
I go. Oh my God! For whatever reason, it popped into your head, and you have to vanquish the thought immediately. You start thinking about, oh man, is there an afterlife? I probably, if I'm a betting man, I would say no. But the thought of just being dead for all eternity is so awful that I just have to just get that out of my mind immediately.
Does it inspire you to live in the present?
No, it does. It absolutely does. Of course it does.
It's all one take, so you might as well rock out.
Oh, I agree. That's why, I always laugh at people who think that if you're not, I'm not a religious person, they, if he doesn't have religion, he doesn't appreciate life and he doesn't respect other people. And I've found it to be really quite the opposite, that me personally, I have more respect for everybody and everything because I figure, oh, this is it. This is all we have. And I don't plan on going up to the pearly gates, but it's such an awful thought to think of. But you're right. I do try to live as much as I can here and now. But do you believe in any afterlife, or you think it's just
No, not at all.
No.
No, I just figure, once you're dead, that's it. So you might as well do what you can with your one take. There's people I know who are very Christ-centered in their lives, and they're some of the most honest, do-good, funny, easy-to-be-around people I've ever met, who check me on when I'll say something, and they're like, well, that's a little cheap. And I'm like, well, admittedly, but I was just trying to get the laugh. But these people are not at all hard to be around, and I would not like to classify them as those people. So I think you'll find people who are just absolutely wretched and they're religious, and you'll find the same with some people who aren't. And I'm loath to generalize because you get caught out there. But no, for myself, I was not raised in a religious environment at any time in my life, not in school, not at home, ever. nor was I raised around people who put religion down. Was this never in my life.
Before I let Henry go, Dave is on the line, and he wants to ask Henry a quick question. Go ahead, Dave. You're on with Henry Rollins.
Yo, Rover.
Yo.
Hey, just want to tell Henry I've been a big fan of his and Black Flag for pretty much most of my life. But from what I've read and watched in documentaries, the night he went to a Black Flag show, from what I heard, he was there to see the band play. He ended up singing the show, and that's what started him off on Black Flag. I just wanted to ask him what if he wouldn't have sang that night, what do you think he'd be doing, and where do you think he would have went from there?
I get asked that question a lot because my life has been pretty interesting, and and a lot of where I am now started from that. I jumped on stage with Black Flag and sang a song with them because I had to leave. I had to drive back from New York down to D.C. and go to work. So I said to them from the floor, I knew them. I said, hey, can you play this one particular song for me? It's about going to work. She goes, I got to go to work. And the singer, Des, said, okay, this is for Henry because he's got to go to work. And then we kind of looked at each other, and I looked at the microphone, and he went, well, yeah, here. He just handed me the mic like, you sing it. So I jumped on stage and sang it. And a day later, someone in the band called me at my job and said, hey, we're auditioning singers, and we liked what you did the other night. You want to come back up here and audition? And I looked at my $3.75 an hour job scooping ice cream and juxtaposed that against a chance to audition to be in my favorite band. So I took the Amtrak up to New York, auditioned, got the job, quit my job, departed for Los Angeles with a duffel bag via Detroit, Michigan, met up with the band, and came out here in the summer of '81.
And Dez, did he continue on with the band? Because he was the vocalist. Okay.
And eventually left to form his own band and is now in the Misfits playing guitar.
Well, some people, Henry, would say that that's divine intervention, and that was the path you were set on. But
lucky break.
Henry Rollins will be here on Saturday, October 18th, 9:30 p.m., an evening with Henry Rollins. It's at the Cleveland Masonic Auditorium, which is at 3615 Euclid Avenue. And for tickets, here's the website. It's paccleveland.com. That's whatever that is. That's where you can get tickets. paccleveland.com. And Henry's website is henryrollins.com. Henry,
sure.
I appreciate you coming on the show. Enjoy all of the traveling and everything that you're doing, and maybe see this girl of yours a little bit more frequently.
Well, thanks. Thank you. I'll take that into consideration.
Henry Rollins, I appreciate it. Thank you, my man.
All right, take care.
Thank you.